Welcome to the BZen Wellness Podcast, where we journey through personal stories of transformation and resilience.
This is a space for us to share insights from our experiences and the wisdom of the experts and mentors who have guided us.
I'm your host, Jonah Boersma, certified life and relationship coach.
And I'm your host, Brittany Boersma, registered yoga teacher, breathwork facilitator, and ceremonialist.
If you're enthusiastic about personal development, you're in the right place.
Let's dig in. So we love to get started with a collective breath. So we'll just take a big inhale together. Open the mouth and sigh it out. Settling in here, allowing the listeners to settle in. My dear sister, Amy Edwards, an amazing 52 years old, the founder and CEO of Overflow Bottle Co., a transformative leader, and the host of The Amy Edwards Show, a podcast advocating for personal empowerment and happiness at every age through innovative and efficient habits and mindset shifts. With a 30-year career in radio and music, Amy is also an author, Reiki master, creator of the Best You courses, the founder of Fight for Her initiative focused on helping the Batwa Pygmy women and girls, and a mother of 2 teenage girls.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
And we also have with us the big pygmy.
Whoa. Hey, yo.
Justin Wren. Justin is a humanitarian, a mental health advocate, a podcast host, and a keynote speaker. After overcoming depression and addiction, Justin lived with the Mbuti Pygmy people in Congo, which led him to found Fight for the Forgotten, a nonprofit that is in service of the Pygmy people. So awesome.
Thank you.
I just love that. Justin's a former UFC fighter and an author who is now globally recognized as a keynote speaker, empowering people to find purpose and make lasting change and impact. It's so awesome to have you guys here with us today.
Thank you.
You're 2 of the people we love most.
Yeah.
We love you guys
that when we
too.
came in, we just love you.
Yeah.
So thank you.
We love you guys. I remember we met in 2020
Yeah.
in Sedona, the most magical place. And Amy and I, it was love at first sight. We had the most amazing conversation, and you brought little intentions for everybody, handwritten intentions or affirmations.
I did.
And I believe mine said, I am powerful. And I still have it in my medicine bag.
Yeah, we had to bring medicine bags, and they said, put your medicine in there. And mine is so related to words and voice. And so I made just a bunch of those and thought everyone could just pick one, and then you get what's intended for you, right? So
It left a lasting
I love
impression.
that you remember that.
Of
Thank
course.
you.
And Justin was wearing roller skates. We were roommates, and you will never be forgotten with those roller skates. And we've actually gotten to go roller skating all together.
And that's when we met too.
Yeah.
Yeah, we all met on the
Yeah.
same weekend.
Yep.
So cool.
Yeah.
And look at us now. Look
I
at
know.
you 2 now.
Yeah. Ben, remember Ben that made my outfit?
Yes.
So he basically, my tailor that made this outfit that I would wear with the roller skates. I just forgot about this until just now, but he said, I'm going to make you this thing, and I feel like you're going to find the love of your life wearing it.
No way.
Yeah, he said maybe not the first time, but for sure you're going to. And so the first time I wore it, I'm on the roller skates. I'm wearing this like Viking space commander kind of vest and everything else. And that's when Amy and I met.
Mm-hmm.
Love at first sight. It was the outfit.
I can't say anything when he wants to bring his roller skates anywhere, because I knew what I was signing up for from that moment, you know?
Yeah.
Totally.
When you meet someone in roller skates, don't tell them they can't wear their roller skates. Like, no. I have matching roller skates now. Yes.
It's so cool from that weekend. Also, there were so many really just amazing people that all came together, but the 2 of you definitely stood out to me as being really significant.
Thanks.
In different ways. Justin, I mean, we were in the same house together. Brittany and I kind of had like this guest house in this house that we were staying at in Sedona with several other people. And you came in with just such a big heart, and we're so like inviting to everybody that you met, and curious, and just was like this, I don't know, amazing big teddy bear of a man. And in meeting you, Amy, I was like, holy shit, this woman is just the most confident, powerhouse seeming woman that I knew nothing about you. I just got this vibe of like,
wow,
ooh, this woman's powerful. And you were rocking this like super cool hat, and you just had like this flair and this like style about you that I was like, okay, I see this lady. She's rocking out.
Thank you. Thank you for that reflection. Because in that environment, I felt like a little out of place. And so, you don't know how you're perceived sometimes. And so it's really nice to hear, because when you do work on yourself, it can show in ways that maybe you aren't channeling in that moment.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Unique about that weekend was us going to that house, at least for me. I didn't know anyone. I was offered the spot, and I'm so grateful it was that y'all were in it. But my 3 words were basically show up fully. Just show up fully. And so much good has come from that. Our relationship with you, Amy and I are engaged, and Amy's been an advocate of mine where she's just reminded me to just show up. And every time I do that, like, it seems like good things happen.
Yeah. And, when we are showing up fully as ourselves, it's like really giving a gift to the world, because when we're withholding those aspects of ourselves that maybe could be of benefit to other people, it's like we're robbing them. I really believe in this concept that if I am withholding aspects of who I am, then I'm robbing the world of me and my gifts and my magic. And
I love that.
The world needs our magic. You know?
Totally. Yeah. And it's that practice. It's a practice. I think everything's a practice, but it's that practice of getting out of your head and like into your heart, and not overthinking it, because that's when we get tripped up, I think, right? And get in our own way. Like that's that get out of your own way. Don't you think?
Totally.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Easier said than done.
Oh my gosh. That's why it's a practice,
Well, and then showing up in places that are out of our comfort zone.
Yeah.
Showing up at masterminds, and you both have so much experience in different realms, and showing up as just who you are and getting out of that comfort zone. But the more practice you get, the easier it becomes, right?
Absolutely.
Well, yes. And with what Jonah was saying, like, to think about that, what if I wouldn't have met and had this relationship with y'all? I wouldn't have met who I'm going to be in love with for the rest of my life and beyond. The reason I say that is I can relate, Jonah, like the insecurities I had growing up, and from whether it was being bullied or other things, I had to give myself permission and then take action on showing up fully, because I would have missed it. I would have missed a lot of incredible things that it's like blossomed and become. You'd miss those deeper, below the topsoil moments of just going deep in a relationship with people. And that's what I think life's about.
Yeah, relationship is important. It's like such a valuable mirror for us to just learn more about ourselves, let alone other people. Speaking of relationship, you two are in this really beautiful one. It's been so amazing to watch you come together and cultivate this really loving and seemingly passionate relationship with one another. And I'm just so happy for the two of you to have found each other that weekend in Sedona years ago and been able to cultivate something so beautiful. One of the things that comes to mind for me is in relationship with a significant other, with somebody in that level of intimacy, this aspect of authenticity can be really challenging for a lot of people, because we all have our stories about ourselves. We all have life experience that maybe left us feeling traumatized. And it's not always simple or easy for people to really open themselves up 100% authentically and fully to their partner. How has the road been for the two of you to show up together in this relationship and coming into your authenticity with one another?
Well, I've been divorced twice. He's been divorced once. And so I think we already had a frame of reference where we knew some things that we didn't want. And that can certainly help, right? Mm-hmm. And so for me, I know that fed a lot of the relationship that I was desiring. And I had to relearn how to even show up fully, but show up fully for myself and not compromise on the path that I really wanted with a partner. Like I wanted like the full authenticity and a true partner and like real intimacy. And I hadn't experienced that yet. And so I had to give that to myself and really fall in love with myself in a whole new way. And that's what led to this for me. And I think that you had a path of self-love too, that maybe happened more in our relationship, but still it was like really that showing up fully for ourselves fed these relationships, which I didn't really realize that. I think I was still under that fallacy that, oh, it's a 50-50 and it's not, it's that 100-100 where you're both showing up fully.
Yeah, I would say that until my relationship with Amy, I was doing self-work and I wanted to be on this path of like a growth mindset and just a growth life. Like, how can I grow more? Yet until I was with Amy, I didn't see someone that was, or I hadn't had that intimacy with someone that was doing the work themselves in such admirable, impressive ways that was like not calling me out when I wasn't doing it, but it was a call up, like calling me up into, this is what I'm doing. This is what I'm modeling. This is how I take care of myself. This is how I love me. And because of her practices daily, she can show up as a better mom, a better partner. Look, you led with an introduction of a humanitarian, right? Like I try to give of myself as much as I can. And I love it. It lights me up. It sets me on fire. But I think I've done it at the expense of myself. And when I was more immature, when I was younger, and really at a detriment to myself and others. And so whenever I came into this relationship with Amy, there were still those patterns too. But seeing how she, by her loving, I thought it sounded cheap or like a cop out, like you got to self-love or love yourself first before you love others or things like that. I was like, and really it was probably a sense of self-worth where I would like deny it for myself to give it away or wouldn't receive it to give it, like just almost like a bypass from like source or love creator, like that. The second it hit me, I wanted to give it away to someone else because seeing them light up would be awesome. But our relationship has taught me so much, and I've loved it. I don't know if you've seen patterns
you're
like
right.
that.
No, totally. And our society like prizes that, especially in women. And I'm sure you can relate, right? The other day I was watching Love is Blind and these two got together and they were talking about, he was like, my mother's the type that, always just puts everybody else first and she won't even sit down and eat. And the woman was like, oh my gosh, yes, that's so amazing. They were like, lifting that up, these qualities. And I was like screaming at the TV. I was like, no, no. And it's finding that self-love and understanding your boundaries and like coming into your own wholeness that was a big part of that growth for both of us. And then we're able to have a better relationship, and serve the world better.
Well, a huge piece of that is you both are sober living.
Well, yes.
And I believe part of living sober is breaking free of codependency. Because when we are in the loops of addiction, we become addicted to constantly giving and then receiving accolades or whatever. We're getting something from constantly giving up ourselves. And in addiction, we're giving up ourselves. And so stepping further into sobriety and living with clarity, creating such beautiful health in your relationship and in your own lives, that creates such deeper intimacy. And Joan and I, we've never really been ones to intoxicate ourselves when we're together. It's more been a social thing. And the last couple of years, I've been very clear and calling in clarity for myself, especially because we've been calling in our spirit baby. So how has it been for y'all stepping into that clarity and in different ways through different paths? And how do you feel like it's deepened your intimacy by choosing to live clearer and brighter?
You phrase that so well. The codependency, the addiction, and the sobriety and the loving yourself, it all goes together. Like it's so tied together. It has kind of amazed me because without that work, I don't think I would have the capacity to live in full sobriety. And I just want to say to all the listeners, I did plenty in my 49 years until I decided to embrace sobriety. And it may not be forever, but it feels really good for me right now. And it's a choice for me. But I mean, I've been amazed how those like go together and witnessing it for you too.
Yeah, I would say sobriety has offered, or the intimacy part. Amy and I think we were craving and desiring like not just fully authentic, but fully honest relationship. And I didn't know what that was like, or I hadn't experienced it before. And having a moment of, not moment, but living in sobriety, all of a sudden it's like the veil is off and you can see things clearer and you're allowed to be more honest with yourself and each other. And so it's gotten so good that I'm just like, how would I have ever not pursued this, but also how could I ever trade this? Like I feel like I can't. Like I'm so in love with you.
I'm so in love with you. Yeah. And like in both my marriages, like there was other contributing factors, of course, but I've been really open about the fact that I cheated in both marriages. And I was like, I want that intimacy and that truth and a real like authenticity with my partner. And so it's just gotten so good. I was like, what can that feel like and what can that be like? And so that's what we've been doing. And I think it made me prioritize, like he mentioned earlier, a growth mindset. And I didn't understand the value of a growth mindset. Like that's what I want in friends. That's what I want in a partner.
So one of the things that I got to put words on to where hopefully now I can live by is our relationship is really, Amy has reminded me, and there was this moment where I relapsed and I needed to go get help and I needed to ask for help and seek treatment and like get better. And she gave me these note cards, and because honestly it was going to be done or over if I didn't show up, if I didn't make the right moves and actions and live differently, act differently, and be different. And what was so beautiful about that I'm so thankful for is there were some note cards she wrote to give to me, and we didn't even know if we were going to stay together, right? And we're in such a different place now, but like looking back at that, it's like, oh my gosh, that was us. We were there, and that was me. And the note cards on it, where there was like 40 of them, I think. One of them said, two of them really resonated. All of them did, but two of them were, love yourself like your life depends on it. Because for you, it does. And the other one, face it all, feel it all, because that's where the magic happens. And I think because I wasn't allowing myself to be fully honest with me, like others can, I can't, right? Like I can't. I have this disease of addiction. And so I think I was trying to run from it and it would catch up with me. And I'd be good for months or I'd be good for a year, but it would catch up to me. And I wasn't dealing with the root issues and wasn't being fully honest with myself or Amy. And so whenever I found freedom. And whenever I decided, okay, maybe if I try this thing that sounds a little cheesy, love yourself like your life depends on it, maybe there'll be some freedom there. And I don't do it obviously perfectly, but with that mindset and not at the back of my mind, but the front of my mind, gosh, it's changed every relationship. And it's changed not just that, it's changed my life and the momentum and like the good stuff that I was hoping to see come into existence for me and for others. Like it's happening. It's happening right now. And I'm getting to see the fruit of that. We were talking on the way over here and it was like I was planting seeds before and then uprooting them.
Yeah.
And not allowing them to be watered and take sprout or take root and blossom.
You're kind of impatient too. So you would be like, why isn't this growing right now? And then, and then you just dig it all up, but like it just takes time. Yeah. And then you have to replant and replant. That's like a good metaphor for life, right? When you have to start over. And now you're actually continuing with it and knowing that things just take time.
Yeah. Being patient and consistent. And it's a whole new phase of life, and it's beautiful. And the phase of our relationship, because there's times I can't be close enough to Amy. I know that sounds cheesy for some people, but if you haven't had that, it's possible. You can have it, right? I can't be close enough to her. I never get tired of her. I just want to be around her.
Never.
Do I?
I don't know, probably. I don't know, but I'm going to remind you of those words sometime.
I'm similar. I can't snuggle close enough. Like, get closer to me.
I did that last night.
Yeah, I know. Sorry, I've had this cough and we haven't been able to snuggle.
Come over here. Get closer.
Yeah.
So just getting closer to you.
Yeah.
Especially with clarity, coming into clarity, I think a lot of people don't know that it could take months and months to finally feel clarity after consuming substances, consuming alcohol.
God. I think that I had drank and done drugs for like 35 years or so. I don't know, a lot. Right. And, right. And I think it literally, because I have a friend who is a alcohol-free lifestyle coach for women. And she's the one that Amanda Kuda, amazing woman. And she said, try it for 90 days and you'll manifest and all this stuff. And like literally 90 days go by and I'm like, I'll keep it up. I feel good. But I wasn't like this magical manifestation queen yet. And so I kept going to 6 months. And then finally at a year, I remember calling her and I was like, when does this happen? Because I'm not feeling it yet. But I think it was like, it took me like 2 years, I think, to get that clarity. And I know Andrew Huberman on his podcast about alcohol said that it can take 2 years to get alcohol out of your system, which is insane.
Well,
right?
and people think that, they're just drinking on the weekends.
Right.
So it's going to get out of my system by then. But really the clarity.
Oh my God.
And the energy and what you can really feel from, eliminating certain things from your life. It's really powerful. And in our society, it's so difficult. It's everywhere. So we love getting to hang out with you guys because I love being able to go out to eat and not being the only one that's not choosing to have a drink.
Right.
So.
I think too, I am all about, like on my podcast and what I've done in the last 10, 15 years, I'm all about pushing myself outside my comfort zone. And when I flipped it around and I thought, oh my God, not drinking is way outside my comfort zone, way more. Like that's more of a growth spot. That's more of a push. And I was like, oh shit, now I have to, And so you can flip it around and treat it as an experiment. Like, oh my gosh, okay, there's growth to be outside my comfort zone. So it's really uncomfortable to be the one that's decided like, not tonight. I'm just going to enjoy the moment for what it is and not drink or imbibe or whatever it is. And when that's outside your comfort zone, then it's a good indicator that there's some growth to be had there. So,
and the two of you, you stay very busy. You've got your speaking gigs. You both have your podcast. You've got Fight for the Forgotten, Fight for Her. Our capacity to hold more becomes bigger when we are choosing to live with clarity. And I notice that for myself, like people will say, oh, you're really busy. I'm like, oh, well, I'm also not nursing a hangover ever.
Right.
And so I can do more.
Yeah.
It's really interesting. How would you say that you guys keep yourself the most grounded through all of the work that you do and also grounded in your union?
For me, I prioritize sleep. It's so basic, and I've been really trying to hone in on my diet, just like the most basic stuff. Nature, we try to make it more complicated than it has to be. And so those for me, just really simple things and just staying in tune with my own practices. But does that keep us grounded with where we are? We just make time for ourselves, but not having hangovers is huge. Not like being in those
I remember
states.
you talked about Andrew Huberman, but I was thinking about in treatment, they showed us basically the studies of the brain that I think if I'm remembering this correctly, and I'm pretty sure it's around this, the human brain has about 35 nanograms, I think is what they called it, of dopamine in the brain at like a resting rate, like a normal day. Best day ever. You had the best sex, you got married, and you hit the jackpot, right? Like you got a raise. It goes to 40. But on a worst day ever, it might go down to like 32. That's like a depressive state is 32, 31, 30, something like that. But all of a sudden, so the substances will take you up to 200, 400, 800, 1200, depending on what they are, right? Like Oxycontin was like 800 or 1000. Meth was like a 1200. Like drinking was like still like a 600 or 700, right? But when you take that substance out, you drop to a baseline of 10. Like for an addict, like now you are not normal. And so it takes 2 full years. That's when you said 2 years.
Yeah.
It takes 2 full years to get yourself back at that 35 kind of base level.
And I'm at 2.5 years now, and I can tell my moods have like evened out in a way that, like, sometimes I'm like, I should have a drink. You know, I feel great. But no, like the two are definitely related.
Yeah.
And that's fascinating.
Yeah. And so in 3 days, I have 2 years sober. And yeah, thank you.
Congratulations.
Yeah, I love that face, that smile. I feel like I'm so much more level now. And
You are.
what I would do.
As someone who lives with you.
Yeah. Well, Amy,
but I am too.
Early on, Amy would be like, hey, I think you might need a cold plunge, because it would like shift my mood all of a sudden, because that brings that dopamine back up.
Yeah, where does a cold plunge take you? What's
I'm
the
not
numbers?
sure on numbers. I should look that up. Maybe like Dr. Susanna Somberg or someone has like the data on that.
It's got to be out there.
It's got to be up at 800 at
I
least.
think they say it's the natural way to get it up, like kind of similarly to like drugs. And it's been so good, like feeling balance, not these big swings, not from like uber positive of like thinking, hey, everything's great, to then, you know, everything's a nightmare.
The first thing that comes to mind in hearing you speak about the dopamine numbers and how challenging it must be for an addict once they eliminate those substances, going to that like baseline and so much lower than what a normal person's dopamine levels would be at, just makes me feel like, God, how easy it must be for them to just slip back into those patterns of using again, which is just like, it just kind of changes my perspective of how challenging it must be for an addict, because the odds are against you. And I knew that going into it, but hearing things like that, it's like really eye-opening to me of how challenging it really must be for someone to really make significant change and eliminate those patterns and behaviors.
And there was a learning curve for me too, to accept it as a disease, to understand, I'm sorry, not accept, but understand it as a disease, you know, like it really is.
Yeah. I mean, there's so much that I don't know about that disease, but I do understand that it is a disease, and hearing that, it's kind of like, it's just eye-opening, like, wow.
Yeah.
One of the hard things for me to be honest with myself about was I could get some shit done. Like if I wanted to fight and win, I could make it happen. I could be 19 years old, fighting at the highest level, fighting a 32-year-old man and win, right? Or set my mind to it, get it done. Fighting, writing a book, like starting a nonprofit from ground zero. Like, how do you start a 501c3? We'll figure it out. We'll do it. Yeah. Have a TED Talk at like 25 years old or whatever. And so things are happening. But then whenever it feels like this self-sabotage or just like just being a fuck up, you know, it's depressing and confusing and hard, so hard, almost impossible to accept, and feeling like a hypocrite or like a phony, all sorts of stuff, shame, guilt, condemnation. I feel like every time I hear of someone getting sober, we just talked to my buddy Jim, who has 28 years sober, and that dude's a walking miracle. And when I see other friends and celebrate their sobriety, one night I went to this birthday night and I saw 50 or 500, over 500 years of sobriety in the room. But you hear of where they were before and where they are now. I mean, I was in tears because it's just like, wow, like they did it. And it's encouraging to me that like, I can do it too. If they did it, hopefully I can do it, and hopefully I can show someone else they can do it too.
Yeah, and it's so bitchin' to hear that you're coming up on 2 years, and to hear about how much is coming to fruition within this time period from the last 2 years. I mean, obviously you've been doing a lot of work with Fight for the Forgotten for much longer than 2 years, but it seems like there's been just traction happening recently, which is so cool to see that kind of synchronicity, that it's in this alignment with your sobriety as well. I think that's really fascinating.
I point that out to him kind of regularly too. I'm like, look what happens when you're living in alignment, because he had never really truly done that. It's like what you were talking about at the beginning. Like really. Yeah. People can think they are, but there's a lot of self-reflection that you can do in there to say, am I really truly living a life of alignment?
For me, yes, this has been 13 years doing this. I've lived boots on the ground in the huts with the Pygmy people, and that's my second family. Like, I love them to death. They're amazing. They've changed my life. They've added so much beauty and perspective and ancient wisdom into my life. But one of the big moments for me was Amy coming on her first trip last year.
I wanted to talk about this.
Us being in alignment, and her catching a vision from sitting with the women, the elders, the girls, and hearing their desires, wants, needs, by her asking some good questions and then making great suggestions and then being birthed out of that alongside Fight for the Forgotten, Fight for Her.
Yeah. And I think this will probably resonate with your listeners, but I don't know if I've told you, I thought about doing something like that for like years and years. Have I told you that? And my mother used to talk about how she would love to do something for women all over the world and whatever. And it planted a seed in my mind. And I thought, gosh, I would love to have some sort of foundation or nonprofit or something that helps women around the world. And so when I was doing a lot of my self-work after my second divorce and before I met Justin, so late 40s, I created an audio vision board where I had my perfect day and I wrote it all out. And, I like everything from like what's sitting beside my bed to the person that's in my life and how I feel and smells and views, the whole nine. And I was imagining what I did for a living and all that. And in there, I said, I have a nonprofit that helps women around the world live better lives. And that was just one little blurb in there. And I went through a period when we got together where I hadn't listened to that. And I went and listened back. And I realized that we were talking about it and it was happening. And I had envisioned it for so long. And my point is that sometimes you have no clue how something like this could come into your life, but stay the course with your vision because they can present in unusual ways that you don't expect. And so here we are together and Justin's got an established nonprofit and I have this opportunity to help women. And I'm like, yes, And so then we go and we're able to ask them questions about the simple things that they want, and they want to they want to have jobs and make money for the first time. And they, want their girls to have education, right? And they want healthcare, number one, and maternity care. And so it's very exciting to see a dream like that happen. And you're just like, whoa.
So had you already had in mind before you went to Africa that like this was an avenue that you were going to go down and a way for you to help women was to kind of tag team, I guess, with Fight for the Forgotten and start something specifically for the women? Or was it something that you just noticed while you were there?
No, we had talked about it for sure. We had talked about it, but I didn't have a full understanding of what was needed there and what it was like for women there until I went. And then I saw it with my own eyes, and there's nothing like experiencing it and seeing it to really hit home. And Justin had an experience actually on that trip as well, where a woman had died trying to get to a hospital. Her baby was turned the wrong way. The baby died. She died.
On the roadside.
Unbelievably tragic. You don't even want to know details. Like that
It was
bad.
days before Amy got there.
Yeah, days before I got there. So seeing it all, hearing that, and we're like, there's clearly a need here. Whenever there's extreme poverty or hardship, women take the worst brunt of it always. And so how can we help them? And it's a small part of what Fight for the Forgotten's doing with everything, but it's doesn't take a lot of money to make a big difference there.
A huge difference.
Yes.
Well, and what I was seeing too is you guys both being on the land. You went and spent time on the land years ago. And when you're there, boots on the ground, the alignment happens. You're experiencing the earth, you're experiencing the people. And then that's really when the codes come through. It's not very graspable or attainable when you're just having this vision from afar.
Yeah.
But going and visiting, you really can see and feel and touch and understand.
Yeah, I remember Mama Grace grabbed you by the hand and walked you inside her home, her first home to ever have. And she wanted you to sit by her on her bed.
Oh,
and
yeah.
She
laid down on her bed and showed me her bed.
Girl time.
Yeah, it was amazing.
Her grandmother. And first time she ever had a bed to lay on, like with a mattress and lift it off the ground. But I would say it's not a small thing. I'd say it's one of the most important things alongside Fight for the Forgotten, because the women and girls are the ones, like what you said, take the brunt. They're the ones that have to go collect the water. The girls are the ones that aren't put in school first. The boys go first, or the women are the ones that really suffer the oppression, especially among the Pygmy people. The systematic discrimination targets the women and the girls.
What I learned on our visit in Africa, a lot of times, especially we were in Mozambique on the island, and the women are getting pregnant the minute that they can conceive. So 12, 13 years old. And that can really hold back someone's growth.
Oh,
Yeah.
Just stepping
determines
right into motherhood.
your life.
Well, this will sound extreme, but it's true and it's happening and it's got to stop. But the neighboring tribes believe the Pygmy people are a cure to HIV, to hepatitis, to all sorts of things, to backaches, because they are indigenous forest dwelling tribe that have access to the forest and the medicinal herbs and things. So they're raped. And the girls, the boys are given HIV. I mean, Z is 10 years old. Paolo was 14. And there's people that are held down and have scars on their inner biceps and ribs because of like bloodletting, basically, thinking if they can collect their blood and drink it or use it in a potion or whatever, it'll be their cure. And instead they're spreading it, right? And so horrific situations that whenever we get them out of that toxic environment of this land and onto new land, it almost becomes similar to, hopefully better done, but you think about a Native American reservation in our context, right? Like here's their safe haven, their place of refuge where they can live on it the way they want. They can cultivate the land. They have safe homes where they're protected. People can't just walk in because it's no longer a rice bag that's the door or twigs and leaves with a palm leaf of a door. Anyways, we get updates every day on WhatsApp, and a tailoring school for the women was just opened, a barber shop or salon for the women, learning to braid hair. And it's just like, it's growth, because Fight for Her a little bit goes a long ways to where even those two storefronts, like those were donated to them because someone in the community saw the work of Fight for the Forgotten and what they were doing for themselves. They ended up building this small market with 6 basically shops. And they said, y'all get 2. One's for the women, one's for the barber and the hair salon. And they've got like 40 people in there learning how to braid hair and cut hair.
It turned into a bit of a social hour. Yeah, we had to like sort of figure that out.
Official training. It's like, wait.
But it's very exciting. Very exciting.
It is exciting.
Yeah.
I want to hear more about Overflow Bottle Co. that you founded.
Yeah, for sure. Well, last year I had kind of a perfect storm of just things that went on. I had an interview with somebody who had a 1-for-1 company that she makes earbuds and headphones and gives hearing to people that need it. And I just thought that would be such a cool type of company to have. I wanted something like that. And I also saw a picture online of like all these badass women who had families and companies and all these things going on. And I thought, well, why can't I do that? And so I thought, what would I start if I was going to start a company? What would that be? Justin was gone. And I just like lifted my hands up to the sky and I was like, okay, God, what would it be? And I immediately got an idea in that second. And I thought, I've just seen Justin give clean water to people so many times and they don't have anything clean to put it in. Like here we are, is that BPA free? You know, and like they have an old paint can or an old cooking oil container or some
or motor oil.
A mug that, you know, and that is like, doesn't make any sense. And so I've seen him do that and just, I'm like, why hasn't this been done? So I thought I want to start a 1-for-1 water bottle company where when you buy a water bottle, you'll know that someone who has experienced water scarcity is getting something clean to put it in. Easy enough, right? And so that's what I'm doing. And then I thought, well, okay, fine. I need a really good name. So I was like, God, give me a good name. And I literally got the name just like that. And I was like, Overflow. And it goes with everything else that I do because I'm all about everything that we've been talking about, creating that foundation of fullness and wholeness in yourself in order to get back to the world so you're not depleted. And so how can we create more overflow and come from that place of wholeness? So that's what Overflow is all about. And I hope to avoid some of the pitfalls that other 1-for-1 companies have had. We call it 1-for-1 and more. Justin's my co-founder. And 1-for-1 and more means that if there's too many water bottles or we don't have a community to give it to, maybe we could give a larger container to families or hopefully down the road partner with nonprofits and do water catchment systems for communities that need it. So that's the longer term vision.
Water wells, rainwater catchment, water reservoirs, and the distribution of the bottles could be at a school. It could be at a water well celebration. It could be at a hospital.
Yeah.
Somewhere where it's not going to negatively impact the sale of goods for like the local economy and people that have their own businesses. But there's nothing being sold like a reusable water bottle at all in these communities. And it didn't dawn on me. I mean, I knew it, but we've provided clean water to tens of thousands of people.
It's crazy.
And lots of water wells in some of the hardest to reach, most remote places that are not just underserved, like not served at all. But we also back it with the WASH program, right? Where they're washing their hands and have safe toilets or latrines and learn about, clean and hygiene, right? But there's just nothing available. Like if they're drinking out of a plastic bottle, you do not throw away a plastic bottle there. Like like basically just one you'd buy from the gas station, like an Ozarka bottle, Dasani. Like you do not throw those away because people are asking for them to grab them and reuse them because it's not a paint can or a motor oil can. Like they will reuse that thing and reuse it, but it gets dirty and they have no way to clean it. And so, I mean, they will for these bottles, which is awesome. And if we pair it with a water well celebration, with having a safe, clean drinking container, just having clean water takes away like 80% of the water-related illness cases at the local hospital. Pair that with a WASH program, takes it down another 10, 15%. Now having a safe container to put it in, I mean, it's going to knock it out. It's going to be awesome.
That's amazing.
I love that so much. And I love what you're highlighting too, is you've just taken us through such a visual journey of what it's like to not have water at our disposal.
Right.
What it's like to not have a bed to lay on. It's so important for us if we have the ability to go out and see how other people are living in other areas and traveling to third world countries and getting this picture of what life is like outside of our urban lifestyle.
Yeah, there's a big difference with like developed and developing nations where it's like, we just don't know until you see it, until you experience it, like how much we have to be grateful for and how much it's a laundry list of things we take for granted that people are literally praying for. We don't even think twice about. Could you imagine, like in this community, the nearest health center is 2.5 hours away? Like what happened? We had 4 major medical emergencies among 3 people on my last trip. And the trek to get there until I did it, right? Even the time before, a mother died and I knew her. It was
She was
impossible
walking in
for
labor
her down a mountain
How
on a
awful.
footpath, like in labor with her baby turned the wrong way. That's why we're bringing the maternity ward, but also having a mother's house where expecting mothers can go for whether it's 3 days or a week or 2 weeks before.
Or a month,
like,
yeah.
They can be there.
They can live there
And,
before they go into labor.
Be ready to give give birth, because Western Uganda, Eastern Congo is the hotspot for like the #1 deaths for mother and child mortality rate in the world.
I listened to a podcast the other day and there was a woman talking about giving birth, and she was like telling her story, and they were having an exchange, and she said, I'm terrified to give birth in a hospital, and like they were talking like that. And I just thought, wow.
The fact that we have access to a hospital.
I know. And I just
it makes me think about that
really
as well.
hit me.
Just having the privilege to be able to choose like a home birth.
Yeah.
And some people don't even have the option to not have a home birth.
It was striking just as we're building this hospital and doing something for people that really, it's not an option. And like how much in that situation would I give? Like, because both my kids were turned the wrong way.
And
so
wasn't it an 18-hour labor? Your first
17, but
okay.
I probably deserve a credit for that 18th hour too.
Yeah,
it was 17 hours. I mean, it was intense.
Sorry, the story of what actually happened. Like whenever they realized she was going to die or the child was going to die, and them reaching to pull that child out, right? And a limb coming off, and knowing that they're going to lose both of them, so trying to do something to save one of them, right? And just how traumatic it was for the community of like in the dark, in the mountains, all alone. And it's like,
That's right. That's right. Yeah. The trauma it creates for the people involved.
That were involved. But I also, to transition to something hopefully more positive, it's like, one, what's positive, we get to do something about it. They get to do something about it. They're participating in their own rescue. And like, it's not a handout, it's a hand up, like a long lasting, transformative one that they're participating, contributing, taking ownership of. They're being equipped with the tools, educated with the knowledge, empowered to be the change in their own community. And it's working. It's awesome. And then to take it to a more personal note for the listeners, I think something I've learned in the last 2 years is I've also oftentimes thought of, we have these beautiful water glasses here for people listening. I've oftentimes thought of myself and almost been conditioned to think of like us as a vessel, as a cup. And like we can fill up and we can pour out, but when we're empty, we have no more to give. And then we have to retreat and fill back up and take. And I see that principle. But I also think that what I was doing to a detriment to me and others was thinking of it as like what I realized was I was connecting and disconnecting. But if there is this source that's this mighty river of love and goodness and abundance and support and wisdom and knowledge and all these just amazing things, it's like, I feel like now I just have to stop disconnecting and staying connected to that source. Like among the Pygmy people, there's this mighty river that flows alongside the Congo River. It's the Ituri River. It's the deepest, most powerful river in all the world. That thing does not run dry. It's the same thing with like that source of love. And it doesn't run dry. It never stops. It's ever flowing and it's a mighty fucking river. So can't we just all just try to stay connected to that thing? I don't think that's controversial.
Mic drop.
I was thinking the same thing. I was like, does he need to take that mic and throw it on the ground?
I'm out of here.
I love you.
So beautiful. I loved hearing what you were saying about like the Pygmy people's involvement, because one thing that has come to mind for me in the past when I've thought of Fight for the Forgotten and I've talked about it with other people. There was a young woman that I had met last year who had spent some time in Africa, and she was talking a lot about, I forget how she phrased it, white savior complex, I think is what she called it.
White savior, voluntourism, all sorts of stuff like that.
Okay, yeah.
Toxic charity.
And in the conversations that I've had with you about the work that y'all are doing, it doesn't feel like this white savior complex. It doesn't feel like you're going in and trying to like change the lives of people because you think it's better for them. It feels like the community there is in need of help and is asking for help and is actively participating in improving their lives and improving the way that they get to live.
That's been really eye-opening for me too, to watch how Justin has navigated Fight for the Forgotten or steered the ship rather, and really listen to people and ask them what they want. That was what he went into it with, the intention to love them, listen to them, learn from them. Is that correct?
Did I forget? Live with them, listen to them, learn from them, and love them.
And with the Fight for Her, we didn't go like, oh, this is what they need. We literally just said, what do you need? And then they say what they need. And we say, okay, we can definitely help with that. Would you like that? Yes. Then that's helping people, right? When they show up and tell you rather than forcing it upon them. And so it's been really cool to hear Justin's perspective toward that. And I'll let him speak to that.
Amy told me yesterday, I can't wait for your next vision. Or like what's the next vision?
You need a next vision. Yeah. You've broken ground on the hospital, but I was like, I can sense that you are starting to expand a vision. Yeah.
What's been done so far is the tip of the iceberg. And I mean, it's weird to put like numbers to it or whatever, but the first goal was 20 acres of land or 30 acres of land and 2 water wells. And it's become more than 3,000 acres of land that they own for themselves legally. First time they've had titles in their name. More than 85 water wells, more than, low estimate is 55,000 people served, having access to clean water for the first time ever. And we've seen 1,800 people transition out of an actual life of modern day slavery and into freedom. And like, that's not necessarily the goal or what you can address, but like it's a side effect of like when poverty is kind of lifted or they're unburdened, like, and have opportunity, like, good stuff just happens. And so we say opportunity is greater than charity. Charity can be great, but opportunity just is always better. And charity should be reserved, I think, personally, for war, famine, natural disaster, people with disabilities who can't help themselves. But if a lot of people with disabilities just want an opportunity, right? And so, but people in poverty, like, it's a insult to think they just want a handout. Whenever, if you actually ask them questions, they ask for just a little bit of help, like, so that they can stand on their own 2 feet, have their shoulders back, be proud of what they're doing in their own community. So I would say there's a broken system. And I'll get to the vision, because the broken system is there's 230,000 broken water wells in Africa right now. I'll say that again. My last trip, I drove by more broken water wells than functional. It's a graveyard of charitable dollars. It wasn't locally affordable. It wasn't locally available. It wasn't locally maintained, or it was the show up, blow out technique. Announce your arrival with a parade, throw a party, get your pictures, peace out. It's like, let's usher in a new wave of charity or of NGO work or sustainable development. Like, let's do it right.
So are you having your wells maintained?
Yeah, all of them are functional because there's a relationship in the community, and it's the local team that drilled it. And so if there's an issue, they go out and repair it. Also, our people in the community learn how to maintenance it and maintain it. And so last time there was a small leak from one well, not well, but a tank. So the well was functional the whole time, but the tank with the piping underground, like, it was Kamanya from the Batwa Pygmy people that discovered it, that went and grabbed the tools and fixed it completely while our water engineer was watching them, right? Like, wow. But he alerted our water engineer and he fixed it with a little oversight from Everest. But Everest was like, he did it better than I would have done it, right? And so it's cool. That's opportunity. So the vision is, let's bring it all together in one place. And let's scale and grow and replicate that. And let's open source it to where other people can repeat it and learn from our challenges, learn from our failures, learn from our successes. And in the last 2 days, we got a message from one of the Batwa Pygmy team captains of a soccer team that asked to be invited up to our community so that they can host a soccer game, and also asked if he could learn what we're doing there so he can take it back to his community.
Amazing.
And it's like, so we're going to host all of them up there.
It just makes me so inspired. I feel like this inspiration from just hearing more about the Pygmy people, because what a resilient people, right? Like, they've gone through so much. It sounds like such horrific living conditions, such discrimination, and to come through that. And I mean, more challenges to come, I'm sure, but to be able to come through that to this point and hear about this empowerment that they have to, meet their own needs. It's so beautiful. It's so inspiring. It's rad.
Yeah, I'll speak to that really fast because of how awesome they are. One, anthropologists believe they might be the only people group in the history of mankind that they know of that holds their infants for 50% or more of the time. Like, very present fathers, very, like, they participate and contribute and they're there. It's beautiful to watch. Secondly, there's a couple of Swahili proverbs that I've been taught. Actually, I'll rattle off 3. One goes to addiction in my story, but it's if there is no enemy within, the opponent on the outside can do us no harm. I was like, whoa, right? Like, if there's no enemy within inside of us, the opponent or the stuff or the circumstances, the challenges on the outside can do us no harm. The second one is if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together, right? That's the team. That's the people. Like, they just live it, breathe it. It's in their DNA. Like, life is better together. Third one is, fight for the forgotten seems like this big mission, and it is, but it started so small. And it's a Swahili proverb about mosquitoes. And it's, if you think you're too small to make a difference, try to sleep in a closed room with a mosquito. And I've had malaria and it's impacted me in such a big way. But that's some of the ancient wisdom that they taught me and accepted me in and adopted me in and called me family and what a privilege, what an honor to be able to share them with you, to be able to share my time with them and to learn from them and hopefully help them have a voice in their own voice.
Thank you for the beautiful work that you guys are doing.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
It's fun to get to be a small part of it and to get to learn and continue to hear about your journeys. And so what words of wisdom from each of you would you give yourself when you were going through the greatest hardship of your life?
I mean, I'm a pretty practical person. I'm a Virgo and I'm very pragmatic. So I'm kind of an action taker. I would probably tell myself to go to an Al-Anon meeting because I have found so much good work in Al-Anon. And that was such, like, when he had relapsed and I went through some darkness there. I've had plenty of other dark times, but it's given me perspective on relationships and things that happen in ways that I never could have predicted. And it's the most amazing community of people that are so non-judgmental and truly mastering unconditional love of yourself and life and others. So that's probably what I would tell myself to do. Go to Al-Anon.
Which Al-Anon is a support group for families, friends, and those affected by alcoholism or
and
addiction.
It's free. And
Yes,
there's
it's free.
readings
No expectations.
in all sorts
everywhere.
of different communities.
But it's so much
everywhere.
bigger than that. It can apply to absolutely any problem that you're having. And just going, my problems would get better. And I was like, that's amazing. Just by going to a meeting. And it was just always a trip to me. And it's really, truly about that surrender of, I can't, God can, I'll let God, right? Those first 3 steps that are Al-Anon, any AA or anything like that, it's still the same principles. And so that to me is that just really living in surrender and understanding where the truth is. And so, yeah. That's probably what I would tell myself to do. Very practical.
Beautiful.
Thanks.
I would tell myself progress isn't linear.
Ooh, I love that.
Dr. Amen told me that.
It's true.
And, you know, I don't know if it's the competitor in me, the professional athlete, like it's win or lose. Black and white, like you either won or it was a devastating loss. And I would win and I would find the imperfections, and I would lose and I just heap shame on me for losing. So that way, hopefully I never feel that feeling again. Right. Like, punish, early on in addiction and other things, I would try to, I had this mindset of let's attack what's been attacking me and like beat it out of me instead of love it out of me.
You're not a fighter.
So my doctor, Dr. Daniel Amen, and friend and supporter, Fight for God, like I went back to him one time after like just a dip. To him, it was just a dip. And to me, it was rock bottom again. And he just kind of said, whoa, what's going on here? You feel like progress is this linear line up and you should be way up here, and you feel like you're back at the bottom again. He goes, bro, I can tell you that from when I met you to where you are now, you are so much better. You're nowhere near that. And he had put me in his book, a chapter, and he called my story PTG, which is from post-traumatic stress to post-traumatic growth. And resilience is like going through the hard things. And he reminded me that the moments I've asked for help have been my strongest things I've ever done. It's strength, not weakness. And I was tricked into believing like asking for any kind of help was like weak and wrong, and that I shouldn't or couldn't do that. And so that progress isn't linear, post-traumatic growth. And like when you need it, and we all need it, don't be afraid to ask for help, because it can be the strongest thing you ever do.
Yeah. Both of your words of wisdom, words of advice for yourselves, to me just feel like such an example of the importance of vulnerability. It's so vulnerable to surrender. It's so vulnerable to ask for help and just take that recognition that progress isn't linear. And damn, is it hard to be vulnerable sometimes.
It gets easier the more you do it, right? Like And then you realize, oh, wait, there's people feeling the same way. There's people that can relate. When I tell my story, it can help others. It takes experience sometimes. Yeah.
And I think part of our connection really comes from the deep involvement I've had with addiction growing up with my mom as an alcoholic, addiction in the family. And my mom got sober. It was once I went to college, she got sober. And I went to rehab and visited her at rehab. I've gone to her AA meetings. I went to Al-Anon meetings back when I was in college. And it saved our entire family. When one person chooses to get sober and take care of themselves and choose themselves and love themselves, it changes an entire lineage. And for me, getting to step into rehab at college age, stepping into AA meetings at that young of an age when I was so impressionable and it probably was partying my ass off, but it just really put me in the state of awareness that I needed so badly that I didn't know that I needed. And so just so proud of my mom for, she always gives me her coins each year. She has another year and has another birthday. But I think it's probably one of the proudest things for herself is, choosing to not drink. And so I feel like we have this strong connection through addiction and through our own experiences of being touched by it.
Yeah. Yeah. And most people are touched by it in some way or another if they'll get really honest about it, and have some experience, can understand the relationships and how they've, been impacted.
It has been so lovely having you guys here.
So
I have
lovely.
to just say that we are so lucky to have these Viking men.
I mean, agreed.
Together.
Agreed.
We've got Vikings.
I know. I love it.
Any last words, or do you want to share where people can find you or support your guys' endeavors?
Absolutely. Everything that you want to know about me and more is at amyedwards.info. At the top is a link to Fight for Her, where you can find out more, contribute, and all my podcasts, courses, everything that you could want. Or follow me on social media at Real Amy Edwards.
I have 2 websites to share. First one is I'm doing a lot more keynote speaking, and I get to share the Fight for the Forgotten story, my story, and the story of the people we serve. That's justinwrenspeaks.com. And then Fight for the Forgotten. You can spell out fightfortheforgotten.org or type in FFTF.org. And right now we have 2 brand new matches that if someone were to donate $10, it becomes $30. If they did, let's say 1,000, it becomes 3,000. And so it's just an opportunity for the donation to go much further than ever possible before with us. And so we're super grateful.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Oh
Thank you
my
guys
gosh.
so much.
Thank you.
Love you.
We love you.
Yes. Be good, everybody.
Be well.
BZen.
Thank you for joining us today on the BZen Wellness Podcast. We hope this episode leaves you feeling inspired to continue on your personal quest.
If you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe to our podcast and leave us a review. And if you want to learn more or dive deeper into these topics, visit our website and follow us on social media.
Until then, friends, breathe deep, take some time for yourself, and remember, you are already whole. Goodbye, dear hearts.